This video is going to be all about the first generation Ford Raptor. I'm going to be going into some things to look for if you're thinking about purchasing one of these trucks, and talking with a good friend of mine that owns one of these who, like myself, likes to tinker and kind of has learned sort of the things that these trucks really need and some of the areas to watch out for. All right, let's get to it. So this is my buddy Josh. He's actually the manager of Low Range 4x4 here in Wilmington, North Carolina, and they see a lot of Ford Raptors, and this is his personal truck right behind me. Now, if you've been watching the Driving Line channel for some time, you may remember my 2012 Ford Raptor that I built up over the course of around 4 years. It saw a few different evolutions, and I ultimately ended up with a set of Addictive Desert Designs bumpers, an ARE bed cap, 35-inch tall Nitto ridge grapplers, 17-inch centerline wheels, and King shocks. If you want to know more about that truck, just drop a comment and I can shoot you links to everything I documented over the years. Tell me a little bit about your truck, and then we'll go into really some things people need to watch out for if they are searching for one of these.
This is my 2011. It is a 6.2 truck. With the 2011s, I wanted the nice screen for the dash instead of your old just push button. Still rudimentary, but it's nice. It's at least a screen. It's got 120,000 miles on it, roughly. These things are getting harder and harder to find clean. That's been the biggest thing. When I was looking for them, I looked probably 2 years for one. Thought this one was a little cleaner than it ended up being. Somebody threw some good lipstick on it to send it down the road. I'm still very happy with it. It's my daily driver. It's a lot of fun, awesome truck. Kids love riding in it. My daughter loves the thing off-road.
So these things are pretty phenomenal in terms of out of the gate. They have a lot of good things, especially with the V8. One of the things that you mentioned is the body, and I know these things are notorious for cab rust. So really around the backside of the cab, the rockers, I know that's a big area to kind of watch out for. But there's also another body area that's super important, and that is what, at the back of the bed, or at the front of the bed,
right in front of the bed or the back of the cab.
Yeah. That's the telltale. Has this truck been jumped in its lifetime or abused? If you see markings where the front side of the bed and the cab look like they have collided at one point, not a good thing. That was an issue on the earlier ones. Now, it is also worth noting this is a crew cab. The crew cabs were only around from 2011 to 2014, I believe. I don't remember if they made a 2010 version. I know that was...
there were definitely more scabs in those years then, but yeah, I don't remember either, honestly.
Now, obviously, if you're looking for one of these things used, especially if you're looking for a four-door, all the four-doors were the 6.2 liter. That's going to be what you're going to get. The early ones is 5.4. I think for you and I would probably both agree, get a 6.2 truck if you're looking for one. It's absolutely well worth it. Some of the other things to really watch out for, beyond your basic, check and make sure it's not rusty, look at all of the belts, and that is all the basic stuff, but things that are Raptor specific that are known to be issues. One of them, and we'll talk about some of your mods here in a second, is the power steering system. They fail. Now, whether that's from pump failure or the system getting too hot, it is a known issue on these trucks. So how was that addressed on this truck?
That's one upgrade that was done to this truck before I purchased it. Luckily, it was very nice. It's got a real nice PSC reservoir. The line's got a cooler attached, serviceable filter on the bottom of it. Unfortunately, I don't think PSC makes the kit anymore, but there's still other ones out there. Companies like SVT and a few other guys are making nice kits for them. But yes, heating, cooking the pump, keeping volume in there seems to be the biggest thing, at least in my research beforehand.
Okay, so that's one area to look for. The other area under the hood that's worth talking about is, I believe it's fuse 27, and you move it to fuse 70. Now, what we're talking about is the fuel pump relay fuse, and for whatever reason, it was a known issue where it would pop that fuse, leave you stranded. You think it was a fuel pump, but you're not. I don't know if it was a recall or how
they did.
Okay.
They did. So they actually did recall them. The problem was basically they under-gauged wired that fuse system. Okay. So that was part of the relocation. The relocation port that you move it to has large enough gauge wire to handle the load from the fuel pump cycling.
I got you. Okay,
Yep.
so that's a simple, obviously been done on this truck, something 100% to look for. Now let's talk about suspensions on these trucks, because I think you and I both have a lot to say about these. Now from the factory, these things come with the Fox internal bypass shocks, which was really cutting edge technology for the F-150 platform, really for any pickup truck at the time. Now, my complaint with these shocks wasn't necessarily the ride quality. It was more, it felt like you had spherical rod ends that were just worn out, and you'd get this thud, 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 driving. It drove me crazy. I know you can rebuild them. There's a lot of people that are doing that now. Stepping up the shock suspension into aftermarket shocks, ended up going with Kings on mine, which had King coilovers in the front with adjusters, and I had their triple bypass in the back, which made a lot of noise because of the check balls and stuff. Yeah, but what's been your experience from a shop perspective on these things and your own truck for the suspension?
Part of it, I would say at this point, as good as the stock suspension is, one side of it is just the age of the truck. At this point, we're in 2024. The newest first gen is going to be 20 years old at this point. The factory intervals for having these serviced and rebuilt, I want to say off-road use was even 15 to 20,000 miles, and straight street driving was only 30 to 35. Right. So finding a first gen at this point that has 50,000 miles on it is ridiculously hard to find. So, and again, at about 120,000 miles, the shocks that were on this truck when I got it, they were shot. Leaking oil, there was no nitrogen left to the things. The thing rode like a wet noodle on the road, let alone off-road. Right. So I did end up putting a set. You can actually still purchase these new. I ended up purchasing a new set of the stock suspension, tightened it up a lot. I actually never got any of the odd feel that you complained about with your old truck before the upgrade. For me, the downsides would be just honestly a little undershocked at this point.
Right.
So
yeah. Now, is that something I know we've talked about? So that's something you're definitely thinking for your needs you'd like to upgrade.
I would. One day I would like to do probably some 3.0s, throw some Devers at the back or Icons, something like that to get, the full travel out of it. The front, you really don't need to get into crazy upgrades with the upgraded shock at the time. The arms, uppers and lowers, handle most guys. It's a good truck. I mean, it's a phenomenal platform to build off of.
So kind of piggybacking off of the suspension, obviously you're not running the stock tires and wheels on this thing anymore. Tell me a little bit about this tire and wheel package. Have you changed tire sizing or anything like that? And what do you have here?
Just a hair, obviously. Factory forms a 315. So with the Nitto Ridge Grappler, I went ahead and did the 35 1250 17 with the method I believe, NV305s, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's a little bit more offset, which sticking with 35s isn't much of a problem. If you wanted to try to do 37s one day, this is where the offset does become a little tough. I love the stance of it though. I mean, I'm outside the flare 1.5-ish, right, and it's a 8.5 0, I believe. But with this kind of offset, unless you really throw preload or go up to like top perch on the stock struts, you really get into mainly on the back side of the front fender, having to really clearance in there if you play with it off-road.
Right, if you're actually going to use it.
Yeah.
It looks like the fence, so obviously you did the same thing that I did, paint match fenders, look so good. Anything else, have you had to trim or modify the fenders in any other way?
Not for the 35 1250s with this offset, no. I haven't touched a thing. I haven't jumped this one yet, but it's been good so far.
Now, you were saying one of the things that really made this truck drive a lot better for you was changing the tune on it. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
My biggest complaint on this to where I wanted to do the tune wasn't necessarily power, because on a naturally aspirated engine, you are typically playing with shift points, getting rid of a little bit of slippage, advancing some timing. So it's not the actual gains without throwing more bolt-ons to superchargers, any of that kind of stuff, is correcting some of the shift points. Right. This thing in stock form would run sixth gear at 35 miles an hour, and I'm sitting at 1,000 RPM. So go to pass somebody or just maneuverability, you lay into it and it drops all the way down to third gear, or lay into it and drops to second. And it's a very abrupt, not user-friendly stock tune. So I set a tune on this truck. I got some custom flashes done, and it's been phenomenal. It stays and holds in third gear up until about 40 to 45, unless you're just taking it easy on it. Then it'll still row through, but it revs match. It's fun.
Now, is that a plug and play that you download to like a SCT tuner?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Still kind of old technology and even, to the new SCT tuners, yes, it's throw it on there, download the file, upload it, unplug it, and...
But it's made a pretty measurable difference.
Huge difference in the shift points and the way the truck feels.
Well, what else is this, have you done to make this truck work better for you and things like that?
For me, I did do headlights. I did some Morimoto LED lights. My truck was a non-HID truck, which I think 2013, they became standard. It was either 12 or 13. Okay. Being a 10 and 11, they were non-LED trucks. So yes, did a nice set of headlights, because nowadays everything has LEDs and it's nice to actually be able to see. Got a bed cover on the back.
You still have the graphics in the back too, which you don't really see that often.
I do. And one of the things that's worried me a little bit is I do want to take them off at some point, but it scares me a little bit of stripping the paint underneath of it with it, since it is 23-year-old vinyl. Right. Also did an exhaust on this. It's an MBRP. It's got a nice resonator, so it gives it a good throaty sound, but not any nasty drone on the highway. I did a little cold air intake as well with the tune, but that's about it.
Now, from a shop perspective, what do you see that needs not to be upgraded, but repaired on these trucks? Because I really think that's the most telling thing, is like, if a lot of these things are coming in for the same issues and repairs, that says a lot more than anything else. So what fails on these trucks that you guys see?
One of the largest things, and it's not even honestly fully Raptor specific, but all the F-150s at this point use the system, it's the IWEs. The four-wheel drive actuator down on the back side of the unit bearings, what you're engaging and disengaging, it doesn't have anything at the diff side, it's vacuum operated. And under load, a lot of them will disengage, re-engage. If you get a little bit of a vacuum leak, they can actually engage on you going down the road and cause some pretty nasty vibrations and then buzzing sounds. They're kind of one of your biggest failure prones on this generation truck at this point.
So I remember looking into this when I had my Raptor, and at the time, I know RCV made like a really high-end delete system. It wasn't that expensive. It was a lot of work to put it in there, but it was, you got rid of that whole deal, and you're essentially, all your axle shafts were turning all the time. What typically do, that seems like it's probably more of an extreme end of fix. What's the most common fix? Is it just new vacuum lines, or just depends case by case? Case
by case. It depends on, for the shop side, it's always what do you use the vehicle for? Right. Are you taking this thing out and playing with it? Are you even taking it off the pavement? The guys that aren't taking them off the pavement, yeah, we go back in and possibly replace or repair vacuum hoses and stock style IWEs, right. Or of course, yeah, the slugs basically that delete that system. I am just such a big fan. I feel like this is the generation that really kicked off desert trucks to the masses. I know there's been other desert trucks. I'm not disregarding this, but this still is, I think, a really iconic look. I mentioned it in my TRX video. Like, the TRX has those big flares, like this has big flares. It looks like someone took an F-150 and put fiberglass on it. The modern Raptor looks like it's built that way, but it doesn't have, it doesn't have the hips. Yeah, it doesn't have the big hips, and I absolutely love how that looks. And the aftermarket for this thing is ridiculous. And yes, you can go Keepy Tech and all the super awesome stuff, but if you're just looking for one of these things to take your family off-road, camping and wheeling, man, you really don't have to do a lot. And they're harder to find because of the smaller window, but
you and I are both
love it.
case models. They exist. Mine was super solid. I had some vacuum hub issues toward the end there, but for the most part, I never really had an issue, and I love that truck. If you guys have any questions, just put them right in the comments. Low Range 4x4 is the shop here in Wilmington where you can find Josh and his awesome Raptor typically. So that's, I appreciate you taking the time, man. And as always, thanks for watching and hope to see you on the trail. Take care. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider subscribing to the Driving Line channel. Our goal is to excite, entertain, and educate you on all things automotive. So if you want to come be part of our journey, please hit that subscribe button, and we hope to see you on the next video. Take care.